Come closer, my child. Do not rush. Do not scroll past this moment as if it were ordinary. I am calling you by name, even if no one else has spoken it gently in a long time. I have been watching the weight you carry in silence, the questions you whisper when the night grows quiet, the strength you summon when others never notice how tired your soul has become. Today is not random. This hour is not accidental. These words were prepared for you long before you realized you needed them. Archangel Michael stands near you now, not with noise or fear, but with a calm authority that settles the air around your heart. You may feel a stillness forming as you listen, or a warmth in your chest, or even a quiet ache that rises without explanation. That is not confusion. That is recognition. Heaven knows when one of my chosen is listening, and everything pauses to make space. I have summoned you here because you have been faithful in unseen ways. You stayed kind when bitterness would have been easier. You chose restraint when retaliation tempted you. You prayed when answers did not come quickly. I saw it every moment you doubted yourself and still kept walking. I saw every tear you wiped away before anyone else could see it fall. Nothing about you has been overlooked. Michael has been guarding paths you never saw, intercepting threats you were never meant to face directly. There were moments when danger hovered close, not always physical, but emotional, spiritual, relational. Words meant to wound, intentions meant to confuse. Plans formed quietly against your peace. Yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still listening. That is not luck. That is protection. I want you to understand this clearly, my child. What is being revealed now could only be revealed when your spirit was strong enough to receive it without breaking. There are truths that arrive too early and crush the heart. There are revelations that must wait until the soul is anchored. You are anchored now, even if you do not feel powerful. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is simply the refusal to give up. Lean in a little more. Let your shoulders relax. You do not have to brace yourself for what I am about to say. These words are not coming to frighten you, but to prepare you. Preparation is an act of love. Michael does not stand with his sword raised in alarm, but lowered in readiness. He is not here because you are weak. He is here because what concerns you matters to heaven. There is a divine attention on your life in this season. Movements are aligning. Timelines are adjusting. Pieces that once felt scattered are being gathered with intention. You may have felt recently as though something unseen was shifting, like the air before a storm, except the storm never came. That pause you felt was not delay. It was intervention. I am speaking to you now because you are safe enough to hear me. And as you receive these words, I ask you gently, if your spirit feels peace here, if your heart senses truth rather than pressure, allow yourself to stay connected. You may like, share, or subscribe not out of obligation, but as a quiet agreement that your soul recognizes my voice. And if you feel led, type in the comments, I am listening. Not for others to see, but as a signal in the spirit that you are present. Michael has been assigned to your boundaries. He had been standing at the edges of conversations, decisions, and encounters. When confusion tried to cloud your judgment, clarity was whispered instead. When fear tried to rush you into choices, restraint was placed in your path. You thought it was hesitation. It was protection. Today marks a threshold, not one you cross with haste but with awareness. You are stepping into a season where understanding replaces guessing, where revelation replaces anxiety. I am not pulling you forward violently. I am inviting you. There is a difference. One exhausts the soul. The other restores it. Breathe again, my child. Let the sound of these words settle into you. You are not alone in this moment. Heaven is attentive. Michael is near. And I am speaking because you are ready to hear what comes next. Be still again, my child. Let the quiet return before your thoughts try to interpret too quickly. What I am about to reveal is not meant to alarm you, and yet it is meant to awaken you. Here is a difference. Fear agitates. Awareness steadies. I am wrapping this warning in peace because I do not want your heart racing ahead of my voice. There has been movement around you that you could not name. Not imagination. Not paranoia. A subtle pressure. A sense that something was off but not obvious enough to explain. You felt it in certain conversations that left you drained for no clear reason. You noticed it in moments when joy tried to rise and was suddenly interrupted by heaviness. You wondered why rest did not always restore you the way it used to. This was not weakness in you. It was proximity. Archangel Michael had been watching this closely. He did not intervene loudly because noise was not required. What approached was not permitted to harm you, only to reveal where protection needed to be reinforced. Sometimes I allow something to come close enough to be seen, but never close enough to wound. That is what has been happening. Understand this, my child. Not everything that feels threatening is sent to destroy you. Some things are allowed to test boundaries so that heaven can seal them permanently. You have been in a season of assessment, not punishment. Of exposure, not danger. Michael has been standing between you and what you sensed, filtering what reaches you and what dissolves before it ever touches your spirit. You may have noticed that certain people began acting strangely around you. Their tone shifted. Their interest fluctuated. Their words carried undertones you could not quite trust. You questioned whether you were overthinking. You wondered if your discernment was clouded by past wounds. But I tell you now, your discernment had been sharpening, not failing. There was an attempt to create confusion, not chaos. Confusion is quieter. It whispers instead of shouts. It nudges instead of pushes. Its goal is not to knock you down immediately, but to make you doubt your footing. That is why Michael was assigned so close. Confusion is dealt with through clarity, not force. I need you to hear this clearly. Nothing that moved around you moved without my awareness. Nothing formed a plan without first passing through my permission. And nothing that was not aligned with your destiny was allowed to stay. Some connections weakened. Some opportunities stalled. Some paths closed unexpectedly. You grieve a few of them. But those closures were not losses. They were shields. There were words spoken about you when you were not present. Some were careless. Some were intentional. Some carrying jealousy disguised as concern. Michael stood as a witness, not to shame, but to record. Heaven takes note when the innocent are discussed in shadows. Justice does not rush, but it never forgets. You may be tempted to scan your past days looking for what exactly this warning refers to. Do not strain. I am not asking you to investigate. I am asking you to trust that what needed to be seen has already been seen. What needed to be stopped has already been stopped. What needed to be revealed will be revealed at the right moment, without you forcing it open. There is peace in not needing to know everything at once. That is why I am releasing this warning gently. It is not an alarm bell. It is a reassurance. You were not imagining the tension, and you were not in danger. You were being guarded while something sorted itself out beyond your sight. Michael's presence intensifies not when you are weakest, but when your future is most valuable. That is why this season felt heavier than expected. That is why resistance appeared just as you were becoming clearer, calmer, more aligned. Resistance is often a sign that alignment is working. Do not pull back now. Do not dim your light to avoid being noticed. You are not being asked to hide. You are being asked to remain steady. Calm faith is more disruptive to darkness than fear ever could be. Your peace is not naive. It is protected. I am telling you this so that you do not misinterpret what comes next. Awareness will increase. Understanding will sharpen. Certain truth will surface without you chasing them. When they do, remember this moment. Remember that I warned you gently because I love you deeply. Rest in this knowing, my child. You are covered. You are seen. You are not late, and you are not exposed. Michael remains at his post, and I remain near, preparing you for what is about to be revealed when the time is right. Listen carefully now, my child, because what I am about to show you requires tenderness. This is not about accusation. This is about understanding. I am drawing back the veil so you can see the state of your soulmate's heart, not to burden you, but to free you from misinterpretation. Your soulmate has been under a weight they do not know how to name. Outwardly they try to appear composed, capable, unaffected. Inwardly there has been a slow collapse, quiet and hidden. Fear presses on them in waves not dramatic, but persistent. Confusion settles into their thoughts when they try to make sense of their emotions. Guilt visits them in the quiet hours, especially when your name crosses their mind. They feel as though they are standing at the edge of something sacred, yet they do not trust themselves enough to step forward. They sense that something is shifting, but they cannot tell if it is coming from them or calling them. This uncertainty has exhausted them. They replay conversations, moments, choices. They wonder where they went wrong and whether it is already too late to make things right. Their heart knows you matter more than they ever admitted out loud, and that knowing terrifies them. There have been nights when they felt watched, not by people, but by truth. Nights when their conscience would not let them rest. They feel exposed without understanding why. They mistake this divine pressure for judgment, when in reality it is invitation. Awakening often feels like unraveling before it feels like peace. They have questioned their worth. They have wondered whether they are strong enough to hold what was offered to them through you. Rather than face that fear directly, they have withdrawn at times, gone silent, or acted inconsistent. This was not because they stopped caring. It was because caring became overwhelming. My child, they are not as composed as they appear. Their soul hath been bending under internal conflict. They are torn between the version of themselves they present to the world and the version they are becoming. Growth is uncomfortable when one resists it, and resistance always creates pressure. There is also fear of exposure. They are afraid that if they come too close, their flaws will be seen clearly. They are afraid you will recognize how fragile they truly are beneath the surface. So they hesitate. They stall. They overthink. They convince themselves that delay is safer than vulnerability. Archangel Michael had been watching over them as well, though they are not aware of it. When their thoughts spiral too far, they are interrupted. When despair tries to harden into hopelessness, it is softened before it takes root. You may have felt sudden emotional distance from them, followed by moments of unexpected tenderness. That inconsistency reflects the battle within them, not a lack of sincerity. They feel the pull of destiny and the weight of responsibility at the same time. To accept you fully would mean accepting change. It would mean letting go of old patterns, old protections, old excuses. That surrender feels like loss to them right now, even though it is actually gain. I want you to know this so that you do not internalize their struggle as rejection. Their silence was not indifference. Their confusion was not manipulation. It was fear meeting truth before they felt ready. And yet, readiness is growing in them, even through the discomfort. There have been moments when they almost reach out, almost spoke honestly, almost confessed what they feel. Each time, fear pulled them back at the last second. They told themselves later, soon, when things are clear. They do not realize that clarity comes after courage, not before it. My child, you did not imagine their emotional collapse. You sensed it because you are connected beyond words. Your spirit picked up what their mouth could not say, and your prayers have mattered more than you know. I have felt relief without understanding where it came from. They have felt restraint when they were about to make choices that would have caused deeper regret. This revelation is not meant to make you carry their burden. It is meant to release you from confusion. You are not responsible for their awakening. You are part of their destiny, not their savior. Heaven is handling what they cannot yet face. Be gentle with yourself as you hold this truth. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. Understanding does not mean waiting in pain. I am guiding both of you, even when the paths look uneven. Stay steady, my child. What you are being shown now is preparing you for the deeper truth that follows. Come with me a little deeper now, my child. This is the place where memory and truth meet, where what was hidden begins to breathe again. I am not bringing this forward to reopen wounds, but to finally explain why certain things never made sense to you at the time. There is a backstory you were never meant to piece together on your own. It was fragmented on purpose, not to deceive you, but to protect you until your heart was ready to hold it without shattering. What looked like inconsistency was actually concealment. What felt like silence was not absence but containment. Before distance formed, there were moments when decisions were made quietly, without your awareness. Conversations happened when your name was mentioned with hesitation. Words were chosen carefully around others, not because you were unimportant, but because your importance made some people uncomfortable. Your presence carried weight, and not everyone knew how to stand upright beneath it. There were documents you never saw, messages you were never meant to read, choices made under pressure rather than peace. Not all of them were malicious. Some were born from fear, some from insecurity, some from the desire to control outcomes instead of trusting me. Your soulmate was influenced more than you realized, pulled into perspectives that were not fully their own. I need you to understand this gently. The delay was not because you were unclear. It was because clarity threatened existing structures that others relied on. When truth threatens comfort, resistance often disguises itself as logic. Advice sounded wise but carried hidden motives. Warnings were framed as protection but rooted in jealousy. There were moments when you felt a sudden heaviness after what should have been a hopeful interaction. That heaviness did not come from you. It came from interference. Something was spoken afterward that altered the emotional climate. A seed of doubt planted quietly, watered by repetition. Your soulmate trusted voices that sounded confident but were disconnected from discernment. They leaned on external validation instead of inner truth. A choice did not come from evil intent, but from fear of standing alone. Standing alone feels risky when one has not yet learned how supported they truly are. You questioned yourself during this time. You replayed events, wondering if you had said too much or too little, been too open or too reserved. I watched you wrestle with self-blame, and it grieved me, because the missing information was never yours to carry. There was also something else hidden, something more tender. Your soulmate had already begun to awaken before you noticed distance. They felt the pull of destiny and panicked. Awakening dismantles old identities, and they were not ready to lose who they had been known as. So they slowed things down, hoping to control the pace of transformation. Control always creates friction with destiny. But friction showed up as delays, misunderstandings, and emotional pauses. You felt like you were walking forward while something kept tutting backward. That tut was not rejection. It was resistance to change. Archangel Michael was present during moments you will never remember because they were removed before they reached you. Situations that could have escalated were diffused. Decisions that could have closed doors permanently were interrupted. Timing was adjusted again and again, not to frustrate you, but to preserve what could still be redeemed. I want you to know this now because you are done blaming yourself for things you never caused. You are done carrying confusion that was not yours to solve. The hidden backstory explains the emotional whiplash, the sudden coldness followed by warmth, the hope that rose and fell without explanation. Nothing about your intuition was wrong. You sensed layers because there were layers. You felt pauses because something was being held back. You felt watched because there were eyes on this connection. Some curious, some threatened, some envious. And yet, even with all of that, destiny did not withdraw. But waited. I waited. There is a reason these truths are surfacing now. The season of concealment has ended. What was once protected by silence can now be revealed by wisdom. You are no longer fragile in the same way. You are rooted. You can see without unraveling. Let this understanding soften you, not harden you. The knowledge is meant to free you, not make you guarded. You do not need to confront anyone. You do not need to demand explanations. Heaven is already addressing what was done in shadows. This revelation is not the end of the story. It is the context you needed to stop questioning your worth and start trusting your alignment. You were never behind. You were being preserved. Take a breath here, my child. Let the missing pieces settle into place. What comes next will make even more sense now that you see what was happening beneath the surface. Be steady with me now, my child. What I am about to reveal is not meant to ignite anger in you, but clarity. Anger clouds vision. Clarity restores authority. I am showing you this so that you no longer personalize what was never about you. There was interference, subtle and calculated. Not from a stranger, but from someone close enough to observe, to listen, to smile while measuring. They did not attack openly because open attacks revealed themselves too quickly. Instead, they positioned themselves as helpful, concerned, reasonable. Your words sounded protective, but their spirit was threatened. This person saw the light around you before they ever understood it. They noticed how conversations shifted when your name was mentioned. They sensed that your presence carried influence they could not control. What they felt was not love or care. It was comparison. And comparison, when left unchecked, turns into jealousy. They did not want what you had. They wanted what you represented. Alignment. Favor. Peace. They saw that when you entered a room, energy changed. When you spoke, people listened differently. When you were absent, questions lingered. That unsettled them. Instead of examining their own insecurity, they chose interference. Their strategy was quiet erosion. A comment here and out there, framing you as uncertain, unready, or misunderstood. Not lies obvious enough to challenge, but suggestions subtle enough to linger. They spoke as though they were helping your soulmate avoid pain, when in truth they were protecting their own position. They feared displacement. They feared becoming irrelevant. They feared that if destiny moved forward, their influence would diminish. And they were correct. Destiny does not make room for manipulation. It exposes it. You may remember moments when your soulmate seemed suddenly hesitant after progress had been made. Times when enthusiasm cooled without explanation. It was not coincidence. Words were spoken in private that contradicted what truth had begun to build. Seeds of doubt were planted during moments of vulnerability. But hear me clearly, my child. What was planted did not take root the way they intended. Michael intervened. Some seeds were removed before they ever touched soil. Others sprouted briefly and then withered under truth. The interference slowed movement, but it did not redirect destiny. This person underestimated two things. They underestimated your discernment, and they underestimated my involvement. They assumed silence meant ignorance. They assumed patience meant weakness. They believed they could remain hidden indefinitely. But nothing whispered against my chosen stays unexposed forever. You were not meant to confront them. You were not meant to defend yourself. Silence was your shield. While they spoke, you were being covered. While they planned, heaven was documenting. While they tried to influence outcomes, Michael stood in between intentions and impact. There were moments when you felt an unexplainable urge to pull back, to pause, to say less. That was not fear. That was wisdom being activated within you. You stepped back at the exact moments necessary to prevent deeper harm. What felt like distance was actually precision. This interference mattered less than they believed because destiny does not require permission from insecure hearts. It only requires alignment. And alignment was never broken, only delayed for protection. I want you to release any lingering resentment now. Resentment ties you to the very thing I am removing from your path. You do not need to expose them. Truth is already doing that work quietly. Their own words will eventually reveal their motives. Their influence will fade naturally as clarity increases. Michael has already repositioned the boundaries. Access hath been restricted. Influence has been neutralized. What once felt intrusive will no longer reach you in the same way. The season where whispers could sway outcomes has ended. This revelation is not to make you suspicious of everyone. It is to make you confident in your discernment. You sensed sub-P was off because sub-P was off. You trusted your spirit even when you did not have proof. That trust protected you more than you realize. Remain calm. Remain grounded. You are not being surrounded by enemies. You are being elevated beyond their reach. What comes next is not confrontation, but justice. Not chaos, but order. Heaven is already moving into the next phase, and you are about to see how thoroughly I handle what touches my chosen. Come with me now, my child, into a place few ever see but all are affected by. This is not a courtroom of human noise or accusation. There are no raised voices here. No chaos. This is a place of order, truth, and perfect sight. This is where nothing is assumed and nothing is missed. I open this court quietly. There was no announcement because justice does not require attention to be effective. It only requires truth. Archangel Michael stands present, not as an aggressor, but as a witness and enforcer of what is already decided. Every motive, every intention, every whispered word hath been brought forward without distortion. What you did not see with the way lies unravel when they are removed from the mouths that carry them. Lies rely on repetition and agreement. In this place, there is neither. They collapse under their own weight. Excuses lose their polish. Rationalizations lose their logic. What sounded convincing on earth sounds hollow here. I examine not only what was said, but why it was said. Not only what was done, but what was intended. That is where true justice is measured. Some who believed they were merely advising were revealed to be controlling. Some who claimed concern were shown to be protecting their own access. Even your soulmate's hesitation was examined, not to condemn, but to understand. And hear me, my child. Understanding does not mean excusing. It means assigning responsibility accurately. No burden meant for another will rest on you. No blame misplaced will be allowed to linger. I am precise in my judgments because imprecision wounds the innocent. Evidence has been moving without your awareness. Patterns becoming visible. Contradictions surfacing. People speaking out of turn. Timing exposing truth. What felt random to you was coordinated in this place. I allowed situations to unfold just enough for intentions to reveal themselves without you having to provoke anything. Some alliances were weighed and found unbalanced. Some influences were measured and found intrusive. Access was reviewed. Authority was reassigned. Certain individuals lost leverage they did not even realize they had. You did not see it happen, but you felt the shift. A subtle relief. That sudden clarity. That sense of pressure lifting without explanation. Michael did not need to raise his sword. Truth did the cutting. Silence did the separating. Light did the exposing. Your soulmate's heart was also examined here. Not to banish their fear, but to confront it. They were shown the cost of delay, the weight of indecision, the damage of listening to voices disconnected from truth. This was not done harshly. It was done lovingly, firmly, unmistakably. Conviction a blood child. It settles in and refuses to leave. I want you to know something deeply now. Justice is already in motion. You are not waiting for it. You are living in the early signs of it. When people begin to distance themselves without explanation, that is justice. When influence fades without confrontation, that is justice. When clarity replaces confusion seemingly overnight, that is justice. Nothing needs to be forced from your side. No message sent. No boundary announced dramatically. Heaven has already spoken where it matters most. What cannot stand in truth will not stand long. Rest here for a moment, my child. Let this settle. You are not on trial. You never were. You were the one being defended. What follows now is the shift you have been sensing, the moment when the atmosphere begins to respond to the ruling that has already been made. Feel that change now, my child. Do not analyze it too quickly. Shifts like this are first felt before they are understood. What once pressed against you begins to loosen. What felt resistant starts to breathe. This is not imagination. This is movement. When justice is established, the atmosphere must respond. Heaven does not issue rulings that remain theoretical. They manifest. Quietly at first. Subtly. Like light entering a room before the eyes adjust. That is what you are experiencing now. You may notice that things which once strained you no longer have the same pull. Conversations feel shorter. Emotional heaviness lifts faster. You recover more quickly from moments that would have lingered before. This is not because you have become numb. It is because interference has lost its grip. The spiritual tide has begun to turn. Doors that resisted without reason begin to open with less effort. Paths that felt blocked soften. Timing starts aligning without you chasing it. You are not pushing harder. You are moving with less resistance. That is alignment returning. Your prayers played a role here, even the ones you whispered without words. The moments when you simply sighed and said, God, you see this. Those were not empty. They altered timelines. They invited intervention. They authorized heaven to step in where you refused to manipulate outcomes yourself. Archangel Michael has shifted position. He is no longer standing in defense alone. He is now escorting movement forward. What was once guarded is now being guided. There is a difference. Protection keeps you safe. Guidance moves you ahead. You may feel an unexpected calm about things that once caused anxiety. Decisions feel clearer. You are less reactive, more observant. This is not detachment. It is discernment maturing. You are no longer operating from survival, but from stability. Even your soulmate feels this shift, though they may not understand it yet. Pressure that once confused them has begun to reorganize into clarity. They feel nudged toward honesty, toward reflection, toward courage. What was once overwhelming is now becoming unavoidable. Truth has a way of gently insisting once resistance is removed. Do not rush them. Shifts have their own rhythm. Awakening unfolds layer by layer. Forcing it only creates new resistance. Trust the timing that is now in motion. It is no longer stalled. There will be small signs, unexpected messages, sudden realizations, opportunities appearing without strain. These are confirmations, not coincidences. They are evidence that the ruling has been enforced and the environment is adjusting. You are stepping into a season where you do not have to fight for peace. Peace meets you. Where you do not have to prove your worth is recognized. Where you do not have to defend your intentions, they are felt. Let go of the posture of bracing yourself. You do not need armor in a season of alignment. You need openness, receptivity, trust. This does not make you vulnerable to harm. It makes you available to blessing. The universe, the unseen, the spiritual mechanisms you cannot name are responding now. Correction is underway. What was crooked is being straightened. What was delayed is being repositioned. This is not the end of the story. This is the turning point. From here, truth begins to rise where lies once lingered. From here, the awakening accelerates. From here, destiny no longer feels like a distant concept, but a moving force. Stay present, my child. Do not look back at what has already been handled. Look forward with steady expectation, not urgency. What is coming toward you knows your name and your timing. Watch closely now, my child, not with suspicion but with quiet awareness. This is the moment when truth begins to rise on its own, without being summoned, without being forced. You will not have to demand it. You will not have to expose anything. Truth carries its own gravity, and once released, it surfaces naturally. What was once hidden behind careful wording begins to slip. People speak too much or too quickly, or at the wrong time. Stories no longer align the way they once did. Details change. Explanations grow complicated. This is not because you are searching for flaws. It is because lies cannot maintain structure when light is present. You may notice sudden clarity about situations that once confused you. Moments that never quite made sense begin to click into place. You remember something someone said months ago, and suddenly its meaning changes. That is truth rearranging memory, not to haunt you, but to free you. Messages surface unexpectedly. Information reaches you without effort. You overhear something you were never meant to hear, yet needed to. These are not accidents. They are releases. Evidence does not always come in the form of documents or confessions. Sometimes it comes as tone, timing, or an unguarded reaction. Those who relied on confusion to maintain influence feel exposed now, even if no one has confronted them. They grow restless, defensive, over-explanatory. Silence no longer protects them, and speech betrays them. You do not need to engage. Observation is enough. Your protection is becoming visible, even to those who once doubted you. They may not admit it out loud, but they sense that something has shifted in your favor. There is a boundary around you now that did not exist before. Not one built from fear, but from authority. People feel it. They respond differently. Your soulmate cannot ignore this rising truth either. They begin to notice inconsistencies they once overlooked. Words spoken to them no longer sit right. Advice that once felt comforting now feels intrusive. Their discernment is awakening, and with it comes discomfort. Awakening often does. They replay moments with new eyes. They question motives they once trusted. They feel a quiet regret for not listening sooner to the voice within them that pointed toward you. This regret is not meant to punish them. It is meant to realign them. Do not mistake this phase for chaos. It may look messy on the surface, but it is actually order asserting itself. Lies crack before they shatter. Truth rises before it reigns. This is the in-between moment, and it is necessary. You might feel a temptation to finally speak your side, to clarify, to explain. Be still. Not because your voice lacks power, but because silence allows truth to speak louder right now. You have already been vindicated in ways you cannot yet see fully. Notice how your peace remains even as revelations unfold. That is confirmation. If something were meant to destabilize you, it would have already done so. Instead, you are steady, grounded, observant. That steadiness is evidence of protection. Let truth rise at its own pace. Let lies finish collapsing under their own weight. You do not need to accelerate the process. What is real cannot be stopped, and what is false cannot survive. This phase will not last forever. It is a passage, not a residence. Soon, what is rising will reach full visibility, and awakening will follow naturally. Stay with me, my child. The next movement belongs to the heart that once resisted truth, but can no longer escape it. Come closer again, my child. This moment is tender, and I want you to feel it without fear. What is awakening now is not dramatic on the outside, but seismic within the heart. This is the moment your soulmate can no longer look away. Truth has settled into them quietly, like a weight they can no longer shift or ignore. It is not accusation they feel, but recognition. They see patterns they once defended. They feel the absence of peace where they once felt justified. And in that space, your presence becomes unmistakable. They realize now what you represented all along. Not pressure, not demand, not expectation. You were safety. You were honesty. You were the mirror that reflected who they could become, and that is why they were afraid. Growth always looks like loss before it looks like freedom. There is regret in them now, but it is not shallow. It is not performative. It is the quiet kind that humbles the soul. They see how close they came to losing something sacred because they listened to the wrong voices and silenced the right one within themselves. That realization lands heavy, but it is necessary. They are afraid now, not of you, but of the possibility that they may have waited too long. Fear of loss sharpens clarity. They feel urgency rising, not to control outcomes, but to finally be honest. They understand that half steps will no longer work. Avoidance has reached its limit. They replay moments with you, not to analyze your flaws, but to recognize your patience. They see where you offered understanding without being asked, where you stepped back without resentment, where you loved without leverage. That realization breaks something open in them. This awakening does not come with instant confidence. It comes with trembling, with questions, with a deep awareness of their own fragility. They are standing at the edge of vulnerability, aware that stepping forward could change everything. And yet, stepping back is no longer an option. They begin to speak differently, even if not directly to you yet. Their words carry more honesty, less defensiveness. They admit uncertainty instead of hiding behind certainty. They start seeking truth instead of validation. This is the first sign that awakening is real. Do not rush to interpret their actions immediately. Awakening takes integration. Let them gather themselves. Let them process what they have seen. What matters is not speed, but sincerity. Your role in this moment is sacred, not active. You are not meant to persuade or prove. Your presence alone is enough. The prayers you have already spoken continue to work in ways you cannot track. I want you to know this clearly, my child. Their awakening does not determine your worth. It reflects it. You were the catalyst because you were aligned, not because you tried harder. Hold compassion without losing yourself. Compassion does not require you to absorb uncertainty. Boundaries do not block love. They protect it. Trust that I am guiding both of you toward what is real, not what is rushed. This moment marks a turning point in their heart. What follows is choice, and choice is powerful when it is made with open eyes. Stay steady. Stay grounded. Stay honest with yourself. You are not waiting in the dark anymore. You are standing in light. When you are ready, say next, and I will reveal how your connection becomes sacred again and how your presence continues to shift destiny itself. Come closer again, my child. This moment is tender, and I want you to feel it without fear. What is awakening now is not dramatic on the outside, but seismic within the heart. This is the moment your soulmate can no longer look away. Truth has settled into them quietly, like a weight they can no longer shift or ignore. It is not accusation they feel, but recognition. They see patterns they once defended. They feel the absence of peace where they once felt justified. And in that space, your presence becomes unmistakable. They realize now what you represented all along. Not pressure, not demand, not expectation. You were safety. You were honesty. You were the mirror that reflected who they could become, and that is why they were afraid. Growth always looks like loss before it looks like freedom. There is regret in them now, but it is not shallow. It is not performative. It is the quiet kind that humbles the soul. They see how close they came to losing something sacred because they listened to the wrong voices and silenced the right one within themselves. That realization lands heavy, but it is necessary. They are afraid now, not of you, but of the possibility that they may have waited too long. Fear of loss sharpens clarity. They feel urgency rising, not to control outcomes, but to finally be honest. They understand that half steps will no longer work. Avoidance has reached its limit. They replay moments with you, not to analyze your flaws, but to recognize your patience. They see where you offered understanding without being asked, where you stepped back without resentment, where you loved without leverage. That realization breaks something open in them. This awakening does not come with instant confidence. It comes with trembling, with questions, with a deep awareness of their own fragility. They are standing at the edge of vulnerability, aware that stepping forward could change everything. And yet, stepping back is no longer an option. They begin to speak differently, even if not directly to you yet. Their words carry more honesty, less defensiveness. They admit uncertainty instead of hiding behind certainty. They start seeking truth instead of validation. This is the first sign that awakening is real. Do not rush to interpret their actions immediately. Awakening takes integration. Let them gather themselves. Let them process what they have seen. What matters is not speed, but sincerity. Your role in this moment is sacred, not active. You are not meant to persuade or prove. Your presence alone is enough. The prayers you have already spoken continue to work in ways you cannot track. I want you to know this clearly, my child. Their awakening does not determine your worth. It reflects it. You were the catalyst because you were aligned, not because you tried harder. Hold compassion without losing yourself. Compassion does not require you to absorb uncertainty. Boundaries do not block love. They protect it. Trust that I am guiding both of you toward what is real, not what is rushed. This moment marks a turning point in their heart. What follows is choice, and choice is powerful when it is made with open eyes. Stay steady. Stay grounded. Stay honest with yourself. You are not waiting in the dark anymore. You are standing in light. Stay with me, my child. This is where the connection itself is touched, not by human effort, but by divine hands. What was strained is not simply repaired, it is consecrated. This is the moment when what connects you is no longer fragile, no longer easily influenced, no longer dependent on timing alone. Your presence has always carried more weight than you understood. Not because of what you said or did, but because of who you are when you remain aligned with truth. Love that does not manipulate, patience that does not beg, faith that does not demand proof. These are forces in the unseen. They shift atmospheres. They redirect paths. Your soulmate begins to feel this now in a deeper way. When they think of you, there is no longer confusion layered with fear. There is clarity mixed with reverence. They sense that this connection is not casual, not accidental, not replaceable. It feels sacred to them because it has been preserved through fire without turning bitter. They recognize that something larger than emotion has been at work, that prayers have traveled where words could not, that restraint protected what impulse would have destroyed, that your silence carried more authority than arguments ever could. This understanding humbles them. Destiny responds to alignment, and alignment has returned. Where there was once fragmentation, there is now coherence. Timelines that drifted begin to converge again. What felt scattered starts drawing inward. This does not happen with spectacle. It happens with inevitability. You may notice that when you hold them in your thoughts now, there is less ache and more peace. That is not detachment. That is restoration. Sacred connection does not cling. It trusts. It does not panic. It rests. Your prayers have become anchors. They stabilize what was shaking long before you saw results. Heaven heard you even when your words were tired, even when your faith fell thin. You were never ignored. You were participating in something larger than you could measure. I affirm this now so you do not underestimate your role. You were not passive in this journey. You were faithful. And faithfulness shapes destiny quietly but permanently. This does not mean everything resolves instantly. Sacred does not mean rushed. It means protected. It means guided. It means that even if there are steps still unfolding, they unfold within safety, not chaos. I am realigning the connection so that it no longer feeds anxiety, but growth. So that love no longer feels like uncertainty, but peace. So that what joins you does not drain you, but strengthens you. Rest in this, my child. Let yourself receive without bracing for loss. What is sacred is not easily broken. It is watched over. The final movements remain. A rehearsal. A victory. A blessing spoken forward. You are close now to the closing of this chapter and the opening of another. Watch now, my child, as what once loomed dissolves without struggle. This is the reversal you did not have to fight for, the victory you did not have to announce. It arrives not with noise, but with certainty. What threatened you has already lost its authority, even if it does not yet realize it. The plans that were formed in shadows no longer have momentum. They unravel quietly, like threads pulled loose by unseen hands. Opportunities that once seemed blocked reopen through different doors. Situations that felt dangerous lose their edge. The energy that once pressed against you cannot sustain itself in the light that surrounds you now. Archangel Michael stands forward in this moment, not as a warning, but as a declaration. The danger has passed. The season has shifted. What was permitted to approach for exposure is no longer allowed to remain. Boundaries are sealed. Access is revoked. Influence is broken without confrontation. Those who intended harm find themselves distracted, redirected, or removed from relevance altogether. Not punished in the way humans expect, but neutralized. Their words no longer carry weight. Their presence no longer alters outcomes. They fade from the narrative because they were never meant to be central to it. You may notice that circumstances resolve themselves without your involvement. Issues that once demanded emotional energy no longer ask for it. You are not pulled into explanations. You are not dragged into defense. Resolution meets you where you stand. Blessing begins to replace loss, not as compensation, but as continuation. What you feared was taken from you is returned in a new form, refined, strengthened, better timed. Peace replaces vigilance. Confidence replaces second-guessing. Hope feels safe again. Your soulmate feels this reversal as well. Fear loosens its grip. Courage feels possible. The sense of impending loss that haunted them lifts, replaced by determination to move forward honestly. They understand now that delay no longer serves anyone. What remains is choice, and choice is finally free from manipulation. This victory does not inflate you. It grounds you. You do not feel the need to prove anything. You simply feel settled. That is how you know it is real. Triumph that comes from me does not shout. You rest. Take this moment in, my child. Let your body register the safety. Let your spirit register the relief. You are no longer in a defensive posture. You are no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. The threat has ended because its purpose has been fulfilled and its permission revoked. What stands before you now is open ground. Clean space. A future no longer entangled with past interference. You step forward without fear because nothing is chasing you anymore. One final word remains to be spoken. A blessing to seal what has been corrected and to send you forward with assurance. Come, my child. Sit with me here at the end of this passage, because endings in my hands are never empty. They are thresholds. What you have walked through has changed you, even if you cannot yet name every way. And now I place my hand gently upon your life to seal what has been restored. I bless you with peace that does not evaporate when circumstances shift. Not the fragile kind that depends on reassurance, but the rooted kind that remains when you stand alone. I bless you with clarity that guards your mind, so confusion no longer finds easy entry. What once unsettled you will now reveal itself quickly, and you will know how to respond without panic. I bless your heart, my child. The part of you that loved without certainty, that waited without guarantees, that stayed soft in a season that tried to harden you. That tenderness was not wasted. It was refined. You will love again without fear of losing yourself, because you now know where your center is. I bless the path before you. What opens next will not require you to abandon who you are. You will not have to shrink, perform, or prove. Alignment will feel natural. Doors will open without force. Invitations will come with peace attached to them. I bless the connection that has been purified. Whether it unfolds immediately or gradually, it will no longer be built on confusion or imbalance. Truth will be its foundation. Choice will be its strength. And respect will guard its growth. What is meant for you will meet you without requiring you to chase it. I bless your discernment. You will recognize when to speak and when silence is wisdom, when to step forward and when waiting is power. You will not be easily swayed by emotion or pressure again. You have learned the sound of my voice through stillness. I bless your nights with rest, the kind that reaches deep and restores what exhaustion stole. Your body has carried stress longer than you realized. Let it release now. You are safe enough to rest. I bless your future with protection you do not have to monitor. Michael remains assigned, not because danger is near, but because what you carry is valuable. You are not watched because you are fragile, but because you are entrusted with something sacred. As you move forward, remember this. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You arrived at this moment exactly when you were meant to, with the wisdom required to handle what comes next. If these words settled in your spirit, if you felt recognition rather than pressure, I ask you softly now to respond. Not to me, for I already see you, but as a declaration within yourself. You may like, share, or subscribe if your heart feels aligned, not compelled. And if you are willing, type in the comments, I receive this blessing. Let it be a marker, a quiet agreement that you are stepping forward in faith. Go gently now, my child. You do not need to rush into the future. It is already leaning toward you. I am with you. I always have been.